Good evening, welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is David Okon. Thank you so much everyone for your help. We are talking about help, money, financial support in the United Kingdom for people who need help. If you live in the UK, if you watch the rest of the video, continue watching this. And if you are new, subscribe to this channel. Support it, share with family and friends. And click like, click notification bell, and leave your comments. We are in discussion. We have been on this project for a long time. We are continuing from where we left, and we'll be stopping from time to time to actually say hi. So we are looking at universal credit. You have to fill out forms if you are sick, if you are healthy. We have been going through this. We are continuing with this. And the process of filling out forms are actually in different sections. You know, on if you get the forms on pages 2 to 7, you can tell the DWP about yourself and your contact details and any treatment you're getting. You're returning from the form after 4 weeks. Explain on page 3 why you couldn't send the form back earlier. The Department of Work and Pension might accept if there is a good reason. And we have discussed this also before, and before actually in the other videos. Go to Gov.uk, go to if you live in the United Kingdom, if you live outside the United Kingdom, or I already said that if something is happening in the United Kingdom, it's also happening somewhere else. So it's good to be informed, and if you have family, friends in Europe, America, or in Asia, or in any of the developed countries, perhaps it is possible that a similar situation in the United Kingdom is also pertaining to the other countries in the world. So be curious and solve your own problems. Take responsibility for your life and for the life of the people you care about. And therefore, go to Gov.uk, wherever you are in the world, read about these things. But this big money, the concept of giving money is actually to support people who cannot support themselves in the developed world. There is no land people actually rely on money to buy food, energy, water, housing, healthcare, and so on and so forth. The public sector is closing down. That's why sometimes it's getting harder to actually access help. Do your best to get help. And this is what I'm trying to go through this policy, so that people can actually reflect to understand what is going on. And sometimes people actually return their forms late in the Department of Work and Pension. And if you actually return your form late by 4 weeks, that is actually late. That means the Department of Work and Pension will ask you questions to kind of try to find out why you are late. If you are on filling out application forms, there are places you can explain, giving reason why your form is actually late. And for example, you can explain this situation on page 3 and give the reason why you couldn't return the form late earlier enough. You have to really, there are actually a list of what the Department of Work and Pension refers to as good reason, and the list is not exhaustive. I'm going through them so that people have an idea what the real world out there look like with benefits. And if you talk about benefit, I'm also talk about benefit as a policy objective of the government, helping people with finance, but also similarly understanding how the benefit system works also helps you understand how the welfare system works broadly, including housing, including other aspects of welfare. And welfare is part of the public sector, and I've already said there are a lot of pressure in the public sector because the plan of the government of any country, including the United Kingdom, is to shut down the public sector. And I've been repeating this point, I will repeat them going forward. And so pay attention. Thank you so much for your support, for being part of this economy. We are working in progress with growing. And leave a comment below and let me know what you think. So, the Department of Work and Pension might accept if there is a good reason. They might accept the form if there is a good reason. If they think there is a good reason, then they're going to accept the form, or they might refuse the form if they think there is no good reason for you to return the form late. So the best thing is for you to try your best if you are actually in a situation where you have to claim benefit in the United Kingdom, or your family or your friends, or you're actually working, or maybe you have lost your job, or maybe you're about to lose your job. Maybe your employer have actually given you a notice of redundancy, or actually maybe you have been dismissed. Maybe your case is in the court, or with advisors or lawyers trying to help you. You anticipating the worst case scenario where you would lose your work, and also, of course, people normally work and they forget that we live in periods of turbulence. We live in a world where you are actually bound to lose your jobs at any time, and the risks are actually there because of technology and other factors. There are always crises everywhere. Actually, now we are living in a crisis. The cost of living actually is a crisis, and I don't know how far it will go. There is a crisis, which is actually a problem in this country and around the world, and so that's why it's I don't know, maybe it's almost an emergency, also emergency situation. I don't know which one is which. You take your pick. If you want it to be a crisis, if you want it to be an emergency, let me know what the difference are. Leave a comment below. Let me know what the difference between a crisis and an emergency. I think the two can be used, the two terminologies, words can be used interchangeably. Now, if you happen to be late with your application form, I'm explaining the process of claiming sickness benefit with, what if you're sick? If you're sick, you might be working, you might not be working. But generally, the information on sickness benefit is actually quite similar to benefit generally. People may or may not understand what benefit is. It can be money, it can be non-monetary, it can be housing. If you're in public housing, if you access public health service, that is a form of benefit, it's a form of welfare. And that's why it involves public fund. And if you are an immigrant, you might have a restriction on your conditions of stay in the United Kingdom. The government may have no recourse to public fund on your passport, which means you are actually not allowed in the United Kingdom to access benefit, for example, or welfare generally. Welfare is actually an indication that in that service, and also in that area, the government is actually funding that kind of support, and all these are actually interesting. These provide good insight into the minds and the working of the government in the United Kingdom. But also you can find this scenario in any of the countries of the world. So to pay attention to the nitty gritty, I will stop from time to time to pause, because this the kind of information is very intense. But it is what it is, and I'm so excited being involved in undertaking this dispensing. And continue with me, and leave a comment below and let me know what you think about this process. Thank you so much for your being part of this family. So we are continuing to actually look at the behavior of the Department of Work and Pensions. The Department of Work and Pensions is actually a government department in the United Kingdom. And because, I'm on the YouTube channel, and it may surprise many people who are living in England that probably I'm being a bit pedantic, or actually being so repetitive of the situation in the United Kingdom. But it is good to explain, because people outside the UK may be interested to know what is happening in the UK. People in Africa, people in South America, America generally, or any part of the world, out of curiosity, because this is YouTube. Anybody, I mean, there are, I think, 100 million people accessing the site every month. That is a lot of people, and potentially they will be watching this, and some of them may be having to interpret into their local the language into their local languages. Whatever it is, leave a comment below. Let me know what is happening. What do you think about this approach? But this is actually something I'm trying to engage in, because it's of interest to me and also to so many people, because they relate to the cost of living crisis. The cost of living crisis is an income problem, and so the idea of maximizing income is quite important. Also, is similar to private companies, especially small and medium businesses. Every private business operational as its primary objective to maximize profit. In the social sector, we are actually keen to maximize our income, failing of which produces results such as we see now with the cost of living crisis. So the process there, as I continue to explain for people who might be sick, or because there are a lot of people who might be sick, who might not know there are help out there, and it's so important for people to really get to be curious. The help may not be very much. The help may not get you out of poverty, but this help can actually help, as the name suggests, to actually keep you going. You may it may help you prevent you from losing your home. I mean, it may provide transport to go to the hospital, to take your children to school. Every little help in this life. So it is really, really important. Even if this material doesn't actually interest you, you think it is not important. It is important because it is affecting your life directly or indirectly. Public policy is affecting the life of the British people in every way. Hospital, school, street life, crime. Because you see, if the public sector fails in terms of providing service, then the majority of the population will be excluded, which direction we are heading as a society. Rich people will still be able to access service in the market, but eventually the market will also stop, because technology is going to take over the world in the future, which in my opinion I think is going to be a good thing in this own right, because it means people don't have to work, we don't have to be struggling. Machines will be more effective in producing better quality goods and services for society, which is the whole point about the market system. The whole point about capitalism is actually a good prospect in terms of development. What might be lacking is if we use our development as failed societies who are actually violent, who are culturally immature, proficient, then it is upon us also to realize that it is our responsibility to be responsible citizens of the world. Not just in Britain. Britain, it may be an island, which it is an island, but in terms of the global perspective, the Britain is actually part of the globe. So if we are a British person or somebody living in here as an immigrant or as somebody born in the UK, pay attention to what is happening in the United Kingdom. Violence is wrong. Politicizing society is wrong. And let us not use immigration. Let us not use, different colors, whether you're a man or a woman, a child or adult, rich or poor, to divide the country, because that is actually cultural immaturity, which is a major problem. It doesn't matter how poor or rich we are. If we fail to manage our culture, we are going to remain in danger day and night. So let us go back to universal credit as always. Pay close attention, and I'm so grateful you came. And therefore, being late when claiming benefit is a dangerous thing, because you can lose your benefit and your claim can be closed. So the finer detail of something you can actually talk about, explaining to the Department of Work and Pension that your benefit is you should be preserved. You are explaining the reason for your being late. Because you have a deadline of 4 weeks. If you exceed that, then you have to explain to the Department of Work and Pension why you are late. And some of the reason they want to hear is that if you did not get the reminder letter, because they send you a reminder letter that you are late, you could explain to the Department of Work and Pension that you did not get the reminder letter, and if you didn't get the reminder letter, then you need to kind of like explain to persuade it to them, and so as to save your benefit from being messed up. And if this happens, you can check with the Department of Work and Pension that you have the correct address, and you have given your address to them. Make sure you have the correct address. And if they have the correct address, it doesn't necessarily mean something's wrong with the address, because sometimes the postal services can mess up your mail. A lot of the time, if you live in a flat, they probably would have left it on the corridor, and somebody must have just taken it and thrown it away. So it's a case of really explaining, not really to provide proof that it actually got lost, because that, in my opinion, would be unreasonable. So if this happens, you check with the Department of Work and Pension that the address is correct. If it is correct, then you keep an eye. You maybe report to your landlord that to make sure that the postal system where you live is actually secure, and things like that. Because somebody can write you a check and put it in the post, or some people can put even cash, maybe £10,000, which is very unusual if somebody decides to do that. But who knows? Somebody can just would want to surprise you with a gift, and if it gets lost, then it's a big loss. I mean, if you are thinking get lost, but this is broadly the situation with the Department of Work and Pension. And another reason they may want to know. You can also check that they have the correct address, of course, but you can also explain to them that you have been in the hospital. If you are actually in the hospital, means you are ill, you are sick enough to be in the hospital, or you are at an appointment with a doctor, because it is very actually risky that you might actually be in a situation. Yes, so you must have been in the hospital for one reason or another. You have been in the hospital, you must have been sick or gone to the hospital. These are some of the things the Department of Work and Pension might accept as valid reason for returning the form actually late. And you could also say to the Department of Work and Pension that you are too ill. If you're too ill, in a way, probably you may have to contact them. But if you might have had an emergency at home, emergency can be anything. Maybe there was a fire, maybe a child got sick, maybe a child got into trouble in school, and you had to rush to school and get your child from school. Maybe the child fell sick from school, or you had a bereavement. Bereavement means somebody died, somebody close to you, maybe a close family member, or friend. Normally, maybe a family more than friend, or somebody who is really important to you, emotionally at least. And so you could say you are out of the country, maybe you went somewhere for some reason. These are some of the things the Department of Work and Pension says on their information, that on the government information list, that these are some of the reasons you can give if you are late with your application for sickness benefit. And there should be a good reason for late forms, and good reason for late forms The good reasons would include not getting the Department of Work and Pensions request. For example, if the Department of Work and Pensions have the wrong address, or actually you had previously, you had the previous problem with your post. This is actually repeatable, being in hospital or out of the country, and you might need to show evidence of this, such as admission letter in the hospital. And if you're being too ill, if this is part of your condition, if this is your condition, if part of your condition, then ask if you can be assessed at home. And because you're already sick anyway, if you're so sick, you cannot actually attend assessment, health assessment, things like that, or you're not getting enough notice of the request for information, or not getting a reminder, and something like that. And the Department of Work and Pension should give you at least 4 weeks to send the UC 50 or other information they have asked for. And you might actually struggle to get information from other places, so a reminder at least 3 weeks after the initial request. Normally they send a reminder of the initial request for whatever they are asking for, or at least a week to respond after the reminder. Normally make sure the Department of Work and Pension know about anything that could make you vulnerable. For example, if you have a mental health condition, and they always tend to know this, and it's good to be aware that you can actually speak to them, you can communicate to the Department of Work and Pension, and you work with them as much as possible, negotiate with them as much as possible. The Department of Work and Pension should do extra checks before deciding a vulnerable person is fit for work, because there is a situation where you are actually being considered. If you are fit for work, then you don't qualify for sickness benefit. We are talking about sickness benefit of universal credit. It's continuation from the last video. But this video and the rest of the video, we'll talk about illnesses. We'll talk about sickness benefit. We have, if you watch this video, watch the rest of the video, or go to government website if you are curious enough. And leave a comment below and let me know what you feel. This is actually to give you a view of what happens at the Department of Work and Pension. It's a government department in concerned with the welfare. And there's a background information regarding why I'm actually doing this. I'm doing this because I want to demonstrate that the system is really complicated, and it's being made more complicated for one reason or another. And but complication alone would not have been a major problem, because there are professionals specifically trained to deal with government policies. Government policies generally are actually complicated. When you're talking about food, energy, healthcare, or even finance, employment, things like that, transport, they're all based on government policy, especially social policy, elements of policy, and the service which actually are part of these policy objectives. And normally they are quite expensive, but quite complex. And that is why normally it is, the government actually finance government offices, government departments, government facilities within the statutory sector to provide advice, support, and all this. The Department of Work and Pension themselves do have their advisory services. The problem with such services is that it is being reduced because of lack of funding. And lack of funding is intended to actually increasingly get out of the public sectoral system. In every sense of the word, the government is intent on closing down the system once and for all, and move the British people out of public to private infrastructure in terms of economy, in terms of service, including public service now becoming private services, which at face value is good, because it actually increasingly free will free the British people from the grip of the state. The only caveat, the only catch is that the British people do not have much money. They are supposed to have money, and the government shutting down should ensure that when it shuts down, the British people are already out of poverty. And I've already said this here, and I've said it again, that part of the preparatory for the British people, actually for them to become individuals, become families, become communities, to actually come into group, especially if you are actually working for a living. If you are not a multimillionaire, if you are not a multi-billionaire, then you can actually become aware of the state of affairs in your country, what is going on in the United Kingdom. You have to know what is happening around you. You can choose to actually relax and carry on business as usual. But my suggestion for people is that if something is happening around your family, around your country, around the world, you have to be curious. Try your best to be curious, because then you can actually begin to collect information. You collect data. Be proactive. Even if you are a child, or maybe 10 years, 15 years, or 20 years, a young person, take responsibility for your life, because there are a lot of people now on the street without parents. Some of their parents probably have died. Maybe they have separated. Maybe they have divorced. A lot of those situations children are actually going through. You have to learn. It's best for young people to learn to grow up very quickly. And information, you can have fun online, but also try to teach yourself vital skills and knowledge for survival. That will actually protect your life. It's a form of social security, legal security, and economic security, financial security, emotional security, health security. If you have information, you are actually comparatively advantaged. So for young people and also for old people, the time is now for you to take responsibility for your lives. The time is now to ease out of the grip of the state and become free. Because you see, the broad principle of society is freedom from the state, from the tyranny of the law, and from the grip of policies and the menacing aspect that comes with government actually ruling over people who should otherwise be independent. So the British people, prospectively, with the public sector closing down, should actually look forward to changes, to a new world situation, a new world order, if you like to use that phrase. And things are changing, and you embrace it, you use it. You have to plan ahead, collect information, be an expert on every topic. Is my request to government to start supporting individuals in society, especially young people, communities, families. Support them to set up in small projects, to start growing their own food, producing their own energy, building their own home, change the planning laws in the local authorities with up and down the country, release some of the lands, train them on the value of using technology, clean method, clean technology, clean approaches to protect the environment. At the same time, balancing this with development, because without development, people will suffer, and suffering might lead to ill condition. People falling sick, people can die because of suffering. So we would be unnecessary. My invitation to the government at this stage is to support the British people as we change direction from actually relying on the public sector, relying on the state, to be free, to be individuals, to start a new method of life, growing your own food, building your own furniture. If you are a family, if you are a community, You can set up workshops. You can build your own cars, design your own engines and build your own engine, motorbike, transportation. You don't have to rely on anybody. You rely on each other. You are humans. Just improve your cultural merits. Grow up, become adults. Even if you are a child, learning valuing yourself, valuing other people, being a stronger and better community, so that you come together and begin to create a parallel society of people who actually are not millionaires, but they have their own human resources. With technology being inherited by the super rich, who will actually use technology now increasingly to actually produce wealth and services for those who have money. Now, if you don't have money, incidentally, you have your life. You can build your own computer. It's a case of learning. You can visit YouTube channels. Visiting YouTube channels, and you can become an expert on any subject. If you're interested in protecting environment, you can actually build tree houses. You can use natural resources, green materials such as wood, clay, or even grass to build houses. You can use clean technology like solar energy, thermal energy. You can actually explore this and become as a community of knowledge inheritors, knowledge bearers. You use this information, you use these skills to bring change, to become independent, to become free. And I can't help but say this. So let us go back slightly and continue talking about universal credit. And you can, when I talk about universal credit now, I'm talking about the sickness benefit, the sickness element of the universal credit. I'm also specifically talking about how to claim it, what is actually required in the descriptors. Descriptors actually what the government will require you to focus to actually answer questions they want to know about your. It's like an inquisitory process, which in itself you can leave a comment below if you think it's a good thing or it's a bad thing, but somewhere along the line you have to do it, because you never know. You can actually prepare, you can be curious, you can actually also talk about these things, because it involves wider issues. I'm talking about benefit, it involves wider issues. It involves housing, involve your parents, family, friends. It may the issue of crime, the street, and the drugs, prison, killings. People are, young people are killing themselves because these things are connected. It's to do with poverty, and it has to do with also violence, because people may be rich but they may still be violent, killing each other unnecessarily. So let us talk about this aspect of policy, which has to do with money, money for people who might be sick, and so you actually claim this money. And I'm talking about how to claim it. So in the process, you describe your health condition, and you tell the Department of Work and Pension what illnesses or disability you may be suffering from. This is actually, if you go onto the form, you find it on this information on page 6 of the UC 50 form. And so there you can tell the Department of Work and Pension about your health conditions. You can talk to the detailed people about your illness and disability. And so you can tell them that how long you have had your health conditions or disability. And you can also tell them about your diagnosis. The doctor diagnosed it. Some people are sick and they go to the hospital without diagnosis. You are still sick, because the policy argument is that the Department of Work and Pension is primarily concerned with how your sickness actually affects your health. So if you have had a diagnosis, you can tell the Department of Work and Pension accordingly. If you communicate with them effectively the way they want it, do your best, get as much help as you can from professionals, from family members. If you are in a situation, even if you are not in a situation, you come across this video, watch it. If you are tired, then remember to maybe when you are not tired again, go to gov.uk, go to citizen advice in the United Kingdom. If you live in the UK, you know this. If you live outside, go onto your mobile phone, click gov.uk, citizen advice, shelter, whatever. You will find all this information there, and read it as much as you can and share it with your friends, especially if you're a young person. Do that. And normally, if you don't have a diagnosis of your condition or disability, you should still include it on the form that you don't have a diagnosis. Describe your symptoms and how your symptoms affect you. So they are interested in how it affects you. They may not necessarily interested in the symptom. They want the symptom so that they can gather data on your health condition. So it is a good idea to include information about things like how your condition or disability affects what you can do each day, every day. You have to keep a diary or something like that, or a notebook, just to record your life, whether you are healthy, whether you are sick, because sometimes sickness come and go, you fluctuate. So anything that you cannot do that you could do before you're sick, because when you compare when you're sick and when you're not sick, if you can do one thing or another and suddenly you can no longer do it, explain it to them that when you're sick, this is what you can do, what you cannot do. But if you are able, these are the kind of things you do. If you become sick, you just don't do them. You just have to be as specific as possible. Your condition and disability. When they talk of condition, they mean your health condition. Because when they talk about the health, you mean some kind of sickness. And disability is like disability, maybe something which has actually lasted for so long, a permanent condition which is not going to go anywhere, or is going to linger for a long time, which is debilitating. It actually limits you either physically or mentally or whatever, emotionally. It affects you. How it affects what you can or cannot do on a daily basis. So anything you cannot do that you used to do before, for example, if you used to exercise but now you cannot exercise, if in the past, if your condition has become worse or over time, you report this as a change in your circumstance, and it means actually your condition is actually getting worse, and the changes are actually getting from better to worse in terms of the condition itself, but also in terms of its impact, how it affects your life. The medication you take has side effects, how it affects you. For example, if you get side effects or in terms of the medication you are taking, and if you have to give up work because of your health condition, and if you give up work because of your health condition, and why you give up work, which is actually the same thing, and if you are working or getting ready to work, if working or getting ready to work might make your health worse. For example, should you actually prepare for work? Should you actually do anything to get ready for work? Is it going to affect you? For example, if traveling to jobs or training will make your mental health condition worse. These are some of the information available, which is actually to give you an idea, the mindset of the Department of Work and Pension when they are trying to get to the truth about your report in terms of whether you are sick or not. If you're working or getting ready to work, might actually put someone else at risk, because see, they look at whether how your condition and the activity you do in terms of your health or disability, how it actually affects you or someone else. And for example, if you would act in a way that's dangerous for other people. So these are actually some of the components of the descriptors. So the Department of Work and Pension want to know what you can do most days, because some days are better, other days are worse, and you list those down, in a week, hour by hour, day by day, month by month. I mean, it's a good survey on your life. I mean, it gives you control over your life. So that is actually the positive. And although it is actually tedious, and sometimes you have to really get the support of people, but it's best to actually record the problems you face. If your symptoms change, or are worse on some days than others, think about that, because your condition keeps fluctuating. What you usually expect to do in a day, what you can do on bad days, or how often they happen, what you do or what you don't do, and how the more details you give, the more persuasive you are, the more persuaded the Department of Work and Pension are, because they want to know that you are sick. They want to know how sick you are. If you are very, very sick, you are, they treat you accordingly. So what you can do on good days are often they happen. So the frequency of things happening to you, good thing or bad thing, so that they can make up their minds. If you need more space to explain your situation, you can use page 21 of the form 50, UC 50. Remember, we discussed it. You can also send more information in a separate file or a piece of paper. Include your name and your national insurance number when you send this information. When you send this kind of information to the Department of Work and Pension, the information are always there. And thank you so much for watching this far. And let me know what you think. Leave a comment below in the commentary box, and subscribe to my channel if you haven't subscribed. And thank you so much if you already subscribed. And leave a click notification bell and click like. And subscription is free, you don't pay money. And if somebody asks you to pay money, then that is not subscription on YouTube, maybe subscriptions on something else. And normally people tend to get confused, and they think they have to pay something. If you ask people, subscribe to my channel, they say, oh no, you wait, I will subscribe. I mean, meaning they need to get money. But I discovered this recently, and to my disappointment, or to my surprise also, that some people think you have to pay money. You don't need to pay money. It's free, and it takes literally seconds to subscribe. So but it gives a lot of support for the content and for content creators. So kindly subscribe and watch and watch and watch. Thank you so much, and continue watching. So when you are sick, if you are in a disability situation, you can be actually imposing risk to health. Your situation can pose a risk to health and to disease, or actually risk. You can actually bear risk to health or uncontrolled diseases. So normally, if you actually use an extra paper file, if you use a separate file from the form, actually you use a separate file or a separate piece of paper. Make sure you include your name and national insurance number when you are sending this information to the Department of Work and Pension. This is to help them to identify who you are. And also, like I was trying to explain, if you are in a situation where you are risking health, or actually being in a situation of uncontrolled diseases as a form of risk, then there are certain things you might be actually required to do by the Department of Work and Pension. Leave a comment below, click a notification bell, subscribe if you haven't subscribed. So in some situation, you could actually get a limited capability for work, or limited capability for work-related activity without meeting the usual criteria, which is the criteria actually called descriptors. So if you are actually a risk to, if you cause risk, if you are a risk to your health or the health of other people, or actually you are a risk in a situation of uncontrolled diseases, sometimes in this situation you are actually allowed certain uh, um, you're given some breathing spaces. So, and if the situation applies to you, you should explain this information on page 6, and you will usually still need to fill in the rest of the form and have a medical assessment. Like I have said before, if you're watching this video, watch the rest of the video, because there is a medical assessment involved. You might get limited capability for work and limited capability for work-related activity without meeting the descriptors. If there would be a risk to yourself or to others if you didn't have limited capability for work or limited capability for work-related activity. This is actually indication of how much money you might or might not get, because this is all about money, nothing else. Or also condition of when you want to claim certain money from the government. So if you have an uncontrolled life-threatening diseases, for example, so you might have risk to health in a situation. So you might get to get a limited capability for work-related activity without meeting the descriptors. You need to show there would be a risk to yourself and to others if you didn't have a limited capability for work-related activity. To get limited capability for work without meeting the descriptors, you need to show that there would be risk to yourself or to others if you didn't get the benefit. And the risk can't be removed if the risk cannot be removed by prescribed medication or reasonable adjustment. And if there might be risk to yourself or other people, if you're doing work or work-related requirements, if doing work and work-related requirement would be dangerous to your health, and this include traveling there. So all these details are actually on the government website and all the other websites I've mentioned in this video. So for example, if you might be at risk if you're traveling to jobs or training in your area, if doing so would make your mental health condition worse, for example. So if you are mentally problematic in terms of health, and also while probably you're there, you would act in a way that is dangerous for others. That is, maybe you have a mental illness or some other situations, maybe physical disability. The Department of Work and Pension will take into account whether the risk is reduced because you have someone who is willing or able to either go with you when you are traveling, or help you become familiar with your route. For example, a learning disability, for example, by practicing it with you beforehand. And so there are these situations which are details the Department of Work and Pension would want to make sure that these options are actually available, and if they are not there, then you will have a limited coverage for work. A related activity if the risk would be from doing work or work-related requirements, and you will have a limited coverage for work if the risk is only from doing work. So there is a difference between doing only work as a risk, but also doing work as a risk, but also work-related activity as a risk. You get one or the other. The other means you probably get more or less money. So if you have the situation where there is uncontrolled disease involved, uncontrolled disease is one of that either uncontrolled disease is one that either doesn't have a known treatment, or as a treatment you aren't currently taking. So if there's a situation where there is an uncontrolled disease which is actually out of control because there's no known treatment, or the treatment, if it is known, then you are not currently taking that medication for one reason or another, then you are in a situation of that sort. So there needs to be a reason for this. For example, if you are waiting for a doctor to establish the correct medication or dose. So all these details are interesting. Take a look. You take responsibility for your life. So if also your condition changes from day to day, if it's fluctuating, as I mentioned earlier in the video. These are actually details about what they want in terms of processing your money, and I'm just going through this so that you begin to form an idea how a lot is needed. If you find it hard to describe a normal day, if your symptoms change or are worse on some days than others. So this is a very common situation where you haven't written anything down, you haven't surveyed your life, so that you can actually explain it to the Department of Work and Pension. So the Department of Work and Pension want to know what you can do most days. Think about what you usually expect to do in a day, what you can do on bad days, how often they happen, what you can do in good days, how often they happen. You can use page 6 to describe if you have good or bad days. For example, if you find it difficult to cope 4 days or out of 7 days, you have 3 good days a week, but on the other days you need to rest. So these details, actually, you need to kind of pay attention to it, and actually if you know somebody, as a good community member, and you go online, you prepare, you understand what the Department of Work and Pension are all about. If your patterns are unpredictable, if your patterns are unpredictable, it can be difficult to explain. You could write something like this: I will explain how my condition affect me day to day under each question in the rest of the form. Because you're dealing with ordinary people, you're not dealing with professionals or professors or even technocrats. These are normal people, but they're on their own most of the time, because less and less the government is pulling out. There's something called empowerment, which is a good idea, but in practice it might be really complicated, more complicated than that. If you need to be empowered, then you need to really be independent. You should write down if you use things like a walking stick, a walking frame, grab rails in the bath, say when you had them fitted, wheelchair, hearing aids, raised toilet seat. All this information you need to really put them down in detail, visual aids and equipment to help you get dressed. So things like aids and prosthetic limbs, if you are actually physically disabled or something like that, all this information will add value to your wanting to actually get benefit. Like I've said before, if you could reasonably use an aid or other appliance, the Department of Work and Pension assesses you as if you are using it, even if you don't. I don't know how they're going to do that, but somewhere along the line they actually always do something. So if your condition is linked to drugs or alcohol, if you are drinking or you're on drugs, then the conditions actually also applies differently from if you are not. So if any of your health conditions or disability are linked to problems with alcohol or drug, it's important to describe this on page 6. You should include what help and treatment you are getting, if you are waiting for a referral, if you haven't been offered any help. And normally, if it's a lifestyle condition, you might get into trouble with the Department of Work and Pension every time you want to try to get help, because they see that as unnecessary burden on society. Perhaps leave a comment below what you think they might be thinking, because if you are drinking or on drugs and you are in trouble, normally it's going to be even harder for you to get help. So it's a case of answering questions in every section. So one of the sections of the form is about how your condition with disability affects what you do. There are questions about what you can do physically or mentally. Sometimes you're in a situation where you're getting cancer treatment, or you only need to fill in, and you only need to fill on certain sections if you are actually also have other health conditions or disability. If you don't have any of any other condition or disability, find out how to finish and send the form. And some of this information are actually instruction manual almost, which will be helpful, but a lot of people may not be able to understand what is actually, because there's a lot of them and it's almost impossible to remember all of the process. So people who are already vulnerable from sickness will need a lot of help. So if you have other health conditions or disability, or you are not getting cancer treatment, you should fill in a certain section of the form, and also telling how your condition affect you. Like I said previously, because this is how your condition affect you, that actually interests the Department of Work and Pension more than anything else. You've always fill UC 50 form, and you always answer questions from one section to another. For example, if you are getting cancer treatment, you can check when to return the form. You can always check what the Department of Work and Pension need to know, points and descriptors, because if you fill out the form, you score points. So a lot of the time, many people actually score 0. So that's how serious it is. There are different parts, maybe part 1, 2 of maybe part 1 could be something like physical function. Answer in part 2 maybe mental, cognitive, and intellectual capabilities. Part 3 could be eating or drinking, and sometimes you can. So you are given a certain instructions, such as to finish the form and send the form. You will usually, get these elements there, and they might help you in one way or the other. And you usually need to fill in an extra form if you get universal credit and you can't work because you are disabled or have a health condition. Because sometimes you get universal credit actually is what we are talking about, but this is a sickness element. When you talk about universal credit, it means you're already actually getting benefit, but you are seeking to get extra because of your health condition, because maybe your circumstances have changed. The form is called the Work Capability Questionnaire, or UC 50. This is actually the sickness form, which is actually what we have been talking about. Work Capability Questionnaire. So after the first section, the next section of the form is about how your health condition or disability affect what you do. If you haven't started the form yet, find out how to start the form. If you are getting cancer treatment normally actually modifies your fortunes with the Department of Work and Pension, or lack thereof. And if that is the way we choose to look at the situation, normally you should fill in this section if you also have other health conditions or disability. If you don't have any other condition or disabilities, you don't need to fill this in these sections. You can go straight to other pages. So you will generally, I'm going to overview. You will always, you will also need to ask your doctor or someone else who is treating you to fill in the last page of the form. Find out how to finish and send the form. So you can check when to return the form. This is actually the outlook of the structuring and also the content of the information. And if you're interested, you can actually go to gov.uk. If you're not interested, you can also do so, because sometimes you may not be necessarily interested, but somebody else might. Like I said previously, you need to send back the form in 4 weeks after you got the form. So check the letter. Normally they send you some letter, so you check the letter, which kind of came with the form for the exact date. They normally put the exact date on the letter they sent you, so you check on that letter and also act based on that information. You need to be organized. If it's more than 4 weeks since you got the form, you should still fill it in and send it as soon as you can. The Department of Work and Pension will accept it if there's a good reason you couldn't send it earlier. So check what the Department of Work and Pension need to know. The Department of Work and Pension need to know about all the difficulties you have, and so they can make the right decision about your universal credit. So take your time answering each question and add breaks when you need to. This will help you give the Department of Work and Pension all the information they need. Don't feel embarrassed about your answers. It's fine if you can't do something or if you need help, but it's important to tell the Department of Work and Pension. They need to know what you can manage without anyone else's help. So our Department of Work and Pension make their decisions. The Department of Work and Pension use a list of statements to decide how difficult you find the activities in each question. So the statements are called descriptors. So these descriptors are extremely important in the real world. For each question, the Department of Work and Pension will check which descriptor matches your answer. Some descriptors may mean you don't have to work or prepare for work. This is called limited capability for work-related activity. If you get limited capability for work-related activity, you will also get extra money with your claim. We have discussed this already. If you don't get limited capability for work-related activity, the Department of Work and Pension will check which of the other descriptors you match. Each descriptor has a number of points. The more difficult you find that activity, the more points you might get. For example, for question 1 in the form, if you can't move more than 50 meters without help, you can get 15 points. 100 meters or use 2 steps without help, you can get 9 points. 200 meters without help, you can get 6 points. If you can move more than 200 meters without help, you will get 0 points. So the more you can do with your life, with your body, the less points you get, which means you are better. The more meters you can cover without help, the less points you get. The Department of Work and Pension had together all the points you get from the whole form. This means you don't have to get points for every question. If you get at least 15 points from the whole form, you won't have to work. That is actually, you will have to do things to prepare for work, such as training or writing a CV. This is called limited capability for work. This actually means you can not work, but you can do other things to prepare for work if your condition improves. So normally if you get more points, if you get 15 points or above, or limit, if you don't get 15 points, you might still get limited capability for work or limited capability for work-related activity. If working or preparing for work might be a risk to your health or someone else's, and you may still be in a situation like that. It's important to make sure you explain all the difficulties you have so that the Department of Work and Pension can decide if you have to work or prepare for work. If you are not sure, our Department of Work and Pension will assess the questions. You can talk to an advisor. Points and descriptors. There are a separate list of descriptors for limited capability for work and limited capability for work-related activities. For most questions, The limited capability for work relative activity descriptor is the same as the limited capability for work descriptor that gets 15 points. You can find the descriptors under the heading for each question on this page. You can also check the full list of the descriptors. Limited capability for work or limited capability for work-related activity without meeting the descriptors. If you don't meet the descriptors, you might still get limited capability for work or limited capability for work-related activity. Either there would be a risk to yourself or to others if you don't get limited capability for work or limited capability for work-related activity. This may include any risk in traveling to work or work-related activity. And you may have an uncontrolled life-threatening disease. You can find out what counts as a risk to health or uncontrolled diseases. You can answer part 1, physical functions. This section is on page 8 to 13 of the form. Moving around, for example, and moving around, for example, and using steps. If you usually need to use something to help, you walk based on answer on how you walk when you are using it. If you use a manual wheelchair, base you base your answer on how you get around when you're using it. If you use an electric wheelchair, because your answer on how you would get around without it, don't feel embarrassed about your answers. It's said and done. It's important for the Department of Work and Pension to know what you can manage without anyone else's help. How far can you move safely and repeatedly on level ground without needing to stop? For example, 50 meters, 50 meters, 100 meters, 200 meters or more. It varies. It's okay if you don't know what to take straight away. Try moving and see how far you get. 50 meters is about the length of 5 double-decker buses. If you know double-decker buses to living in the United Kingdom or elsewhere, then that is how your measurement might actually be estimatable. Well, I want to explain about moving around, and it's important to tell the Department of Work and Pension more by explaining your situation in the box. You should explain how long it usually takes you to move 50 meters and 100 meters and 200 meters or more. If you can't move these distances, you should explain that if moving causes you pain and roughly how long for, if it makes you tired, uncomfortable, or about or out of breath, if it makes you dizzy or unsteady on your feet, if you've fallen in the past. Remember to say how often this happens and whether you needed someone else to help you to get up. If you would be able to move that distance again throughout the day, if you have good and bad days, and what the distances are, how you get around when you leave the house. If you can only move around within your home, or if you can go up and down 2 steps without help from another person, if there is a rail or to hold on to, then your answers will be yes, no. It varies. Don't feel embarrassed about saying no. For example, you should take no if you wouldn't be able to go up or down 2 steps, or if you would leave you it would leave you exhausted or in pain for the rest of the day. It's important for the Department of Work and Pension to know this. want to explain about using steps. If you're using steps, would cause you pain, you should explain in the box how bad the pain would be. For example, so bad that you couldn't move, the nature of the pain, for example, throbbing, stomach pain or sharp pain, how long you would be in pain for example, about 4 hours, whether it would stop you doing anything else, and how long, and for example, you would have to lie down for 20 minutes. So all these details to give a view, to have the Department of Work and Pension form a view how your condition is, if going up and down steps would make you tired or breathless. You would say how tired you would be, for example, whether you would need to sit or lie down, how long you would be tired for. You can estimate this, whether being tired would stop you doing other things, and how it would affect the rest of your day. For example, you would be too tired to talk to someone, and also how the Department of Work and Pension give points for questions. Department of Work and Pension will check which of these descriptors matches your answer. If you need descriptor 1A, you will get limited capability. If you meet descriptor 1A, you will get limited capability for work-related activity. If you meet one of the descriptors, the other descriptors, the Department of Work and Pension will add up your points from the whole form to decide if you can get limited capability for work-related activity. This is theoretical because after filling out the form and sending the form, you will still have to do health assessment independently with health assessor, and up to nearly all the applicants actually failed to pass the test with the health assessor. But there are the facts evidence available that almost more than 70% of failed cases with the Department of Work and Pension will actually pass when actually at appeal. At appeal, all these cases will be actually over 75% of the cases will be decided in favor of the patient, and this will be against the Department of Work and Pension. And an example of descriptors, 1A, for example, you cannot unaided you cannot actually walk unaided. You cannot actually be unaided by other person, either mobilize more than 50 meters on level ground without stopping in order to avoid significant harm or exertion. You can go through the list. So, for example, you cannot unaided by another person, either 15, either one, mobilize more than 50 meters on level ground without stopping in order to avoid significant discomfort or exhaustion. Or number 2, this is for 15 points. Or number 2, repeatedly mobilize 50 meters within a reasonable time scale because of significant discomfort or exhaustion. This actually 50 points. These are actually for 9 points. B, you cannot, unaided by another person, mount or descend 2 steps even with support of an handrail. And C, cannot, unaided by another person, either one, mobilize more than 100 meters on level ground without stopping in order to avoid significant discomfort or exhaustion. Or 2, repeatedly mobilize 100 meters within a reasonable time scale because of significant discomfort or exhaustion. You get 9 points. For 6 point D, cannot, unaided by another person, either 1. Mobilize more than 200 meters on level ground without stopping in order to avoid significant discomfort or exertion. Or 2. Repeatedly demobilize 200 meters within a reasonable time scale because of significant discomfort or exertion. E, where you would score 0, none of the above applies. And standing, and this is number 2, standing or sitting down. These are actually other criteria within the descriptors. Now we have just gone through number 1. Number 1, if you score more points, you do well there. And number 2, this question is about how your condition or disability affects whether you can change seats, sit or stand, and can you move from one seat to another right next to it without help from someone else. The answer is no, yes, or it varies. So think about whether you would be able to sit in an adjustable office chair rather than an armchair or any other type of seat you would use at home. If you use a wheelchair, think about whether you need physical help getting from your wheelchair into a different seat or into the car. These are some of the details. Extremely interesting. If you don't feel embarrassed to tick no. For example, if you need someone to help you, you would lose your balance or fall over. If someone didn't help you, you would struggle to move seats more than once in a day without help from another person, perhaps because it would be uncomfortable, painful, leave you short of breath or tired while you are actually standing or sitting, or a combination of the two. How long can you stay in one place and be in pain be pain-free without the help of another person? Less than 30 minutes to an hour, more than an hour, it varies. So this question actually carries marks. Think about when you are actually waiting for something like a bus or a doctor's appointment. For example, if you have to do things such as get up every 10 minutes to cope with the discomfort of sitting and standing, try not to overestimate how long you can stand, sit, or sit and stand for. For example, if you are sitting on a chair at home, you might need to stand up after a few minutes, but not notice how often you are doing it. Don't feel embarrassed if you have to take less than 30 minutes. For example, if you can't actually stand for that length of time unless you have 2 sticks or crutches, and you also can't sit for 30 minutes. After 30 minutes, you would be in pain, but you would force yourself through such a pain. You, for example, will be explaining about standing or sitting, and it is important to tell the partner working person more by explaining your situation in the box. You should explain things like if it is difficult for you to change from standing up to sitting down, or from sitting or standing, and what makes it difficult for you. Then if you would need to do something after sitting or standing for too long, for example, relieve the pain by lying down, what problems you would have when you sit or stand for too long, such as feeling sick, tiredness, trouble breathing, muscle pain, or joint pain, and why you have problems. For examples, your bad back makes it hard to balance, whether there are positions you can't sit in because the cause you pain out the department work and pension give points for question 2. Department work and pension will check which of these descriptors matches your answer, and if you meet descriptor 2A, you will get limited capability for work related activity. If you meet one of the other descriptors, the department work and pension will hard up your points for the whole form to decide if you can get limited capability for work. So A actually gives you limited capability for work related activity. We are at actually level 2. So we're looking at descriptors and points. Point 15 to A cannot up between one seated position and another seated position located next to one another without receiving physical assistance from another person. B cannot, for the majority of the time, remain at a work station, either one standing unassisted by another person, even if free to move around, or two sitting even in an adjustable chair, or 3 a combination of 1 and 2 for more than 30 minutes before needing to move away in order to avoid significant discomfort. You get actually a certain amount of point there. I think 9 points there. And C cannot, for the majority of the time, remain at workstation, either one standing unheaded by another person, even if free to move around, or 2 sitting even in an adjustable chair, or 3 a combination of 1 and 2 for more than an hour before needing to move away in order to avoid significant discomfort or exhaustion. These are actually 6 points in this under these circumstances. You're looking at the none of the above applies, you get 0 points. So you're looking at point number 3, are you reaching? This question is about whether you can reach up with your arm above waist height. You know your waist is if you have a arm, or if you have an arm, either of them, either left or right arms, whether you can actually move, you can reach out up to your arm above your waist. If you can reach your arms, both your arms above your waist. This is level 3 questioning. Can you lift at least one of your arms high enough as if to put something in the top pocket of a coat or a jacket while you are wearing it? Can you put things into your jacket? Can you reach, example, the answer is no, yes, it varies. When describing how to answer, it might help to think about how difficult you find it to reach to a pocket, whether you could do it more than once, and what would happen if you try to do it repeatedly, whether reaching to a jacket pocket would cause you pain, how severe that pain is, and how it would affect you. Can you lift up one of your arms above your head? No, yes, it varies. When deciding how to answer, it might help to think about how difficult you find it, whether it would cause you pain, how severe the pain is, and how it would affect you, whether you could do it more than once, and what would happen if you try to do it repeatedly, and what to explain about reaching. Use the box to explain what happens when you try to raise your arms. For example, if you always struggle, or if the way your condition affects you changes. For example, 4 out of 7 days, how it feels when you try to raise your arms. If it causes you pain or discomfort, how severe it is and how it affects you. If it makes you tired, how severe the tiredness is, how the tiredness is, and how it affects you, and if you need help from someone else for certain things, like washing your hair. Often you need help, and what you need help doing, if you have good days and bad days, and how they differ. What happens if you try to reach up on a bad day, to reach up in a bad day, how the DWP, Department of Work and Pension, give points for questions 3. The Department of Work and Pension will check which of these descriptors matches your answer. If you meet descriptor 3A, you will get limited capability for work-related activity. If you meet one of the other descriptors, the Department of Work and Pension will add up your points from the whole form to decide if you can get limited capability for work. And for 15 points, 3A cannot raise an arm as if to put something in the top pocket of a coat or a jacket. You get 15 points if that is the case. 3B cannot raise either arm to top of head as if to put on a hat. You get 9 points. Cannot see, cannot raise either arm above head height as if to reach for something. You get less 0.6, because this is actually more difficult task and you can do it. You get less point, and none of the above applies. You get 0. And number 4, picking up and moving things. This question is about how easy it is for you to pick up and move different things. Can you pick up and move a half-liter, 1 pint carton full of liquid? No. Yes, it varies. Try picking up a pint of water or milk, or a pint of glass of water. Don't feel embarrassed if you have to pick no. For example, if you have to tick no, for example, if you can't pick it up, maybe you have to pull it towards you instead. It causes you pain, for example, in your fingers, arms, back, or neck. If you can't move it smoothly, you would end up dropping it. Can you pick up and move a liter, 2-pint carton full of liquid? No. Yes, it varies. Again, don't feel embarrassed about ticking no. Try picking up a 2-pint carton of milk if you are not sure. Can you pick up and move a large light object like an empty card box? No. Yes, it varies. It's fine if you can't do this, but it's important to take no. The Department of Work and Pension I want to know how easy it is for you to move anything that's large and light. If you are not sure how easy it would be to move a cardboard box, try thinking about shifting a pillow from one side of the bed to the other. Want to explain about picking up and moving things. You should explain in the box how you usually pick up and move things. What happens if you pick up and move things more than once, not just as a one-off. If you have problems moving things smoothly, and how this affects whether you pick things up, whether you drop things. You could give an example and say what happened after you drop something. Example, you had to go to accident and emergency. You should also describe how picking up and moving things makes you feel. For example, whether picking up or moving things causes you pain or discomfort, for example, in your fingers, arms, or back or neck. This is actually physical limitation, how long the pain lasts, and how severe it is if picking up and moving things causes you pain, whether picking up and moving things causes you to be short of breath, feel dizzy or tired, if it is different on good or bad days. I explain what it's like on a good day and on a bad day, and out of 10 you have a bad day. Out there now, the Department of Work and Pension give point for question 4. The Department of Work and Pension will check which of these descriptors matches your answer. If you meet descriptor 4A, you will get limited capability for work-related activity. If you get one of the other descriptors, the Department of Work and Pension will add up your points from the whole form to decide if you can get limited capability for work. Descriptors 4A cannot pick up and move a 0.5 liter carton for 15 points of full of liquid. Get 15 points if you cannot do that. Cannot pick number 4B. You cannot pick up and move 1 liter carton for 9 points. 1 liter carton full of liquid. 1 liter is bigger than 0.5 liters. If you can move it, you get less points. For C, you cannot transfer a light but bulky object such as an empty cardboard box, because it's heavier, it's more complicated, more difficult. You can do it. You get less point. You get 6. Number D, none of the above applies. You get 0. So this is the outlook of the descriptors and the point scoring mechanisms from the Department of Work and Pension manual dexterity. This question is about whether you find it difficult to use your hands and wrists. So you talk about manual handling in terms of dexterity, and in terms of whether or not you can do one thing or another, and whether or not you get limited capability for work-related activity or otherwise limited capability for work. This question is about whether you find it difficult to use your hands and wrists because of a physical condition like Parkinson's disease or multiple sclerosis. Sclerosis, MS, can you use either hand to press a button, such as a telephone keypad, turn the pages of a book, pick up a 1 pound coin, use a pen or a pencil, use a suitable keyboard or a mouse. Some of these things, none of these things, it varies. These are the options, and you move forward. The Department of Work and Pension want to know if you can do any of these tasks well enough with one of your hands. By well enough, they mean whether you can make a mark, for example, to a tick or a cross with a pen or a pencil. Use a keyboard. This is in terms of manual dexterity. Using a keyboard including an adapted keyboard with one hand. You don't need to be able to type fast. Turn the pages of the book smoothly. If you are not sure about the task mentioned in the question, think about whether you have problems doing other tasks like preparing vegetables, turning on taps, or getting your money out of a wallet or a purse. Don't be embarrassed to say you can't do any of the tasks. For example, if you have tremors, spasms, pains, stiffness, problems with gripping, difficulty pinching, what to explain about using your hands as in the situation of manual dexterity, it is important to tell the Department of Work and Pension more by explaining your situation in the box. You should explain if, for example, somebody has to fill in forms for you because you can't grip a pen. It takes you a long time to get dressed because it's hard for you to fasten zips, buttons, shoelaces, using your arms, for example, to open a jar lid or the front door with a key, causing you pain, and you drop things because you can't grip or pinch them. You can't drive because of your condition. For example, if you can't grip the steering wheel, use a gear stick The Department of Work and Pension give points for question 5. The Department of Work and Pension will check which of these descriptors matches your answer. If you meet descriptor 1A, you will get a limited capability for work-related activity. If you meet one of the other descriptors, the Department of Work and Pension will add up your point from the whole form to decide if you can get limited capability for work as such. Descriptors 5A cannot press a button such as a telephone keypad with either hand, or cannot turn the page of a book with either hand. You get 15 points if this is you are referencing. Descriptor 5B, you cannot pick up a £1 coin or equivalent with either hand. You get 15 points as well. 5C, cannot use a pen or a pencil to make a meaningful mark with either hand. You get less 0.9 because the meaningful actually requires a harder condition of manual dexterity. You cannot 5D, cannot single-handedly use a suitable keyboard or mouse. You get 9 points because using a suitable keyboard and mouse effectively, if you cannot do it, it is a harder, more advanced manual dexterity requirement, and 5E, none of the above applies. You get 0 marks. Number 6, communicating, speaking, writing, and typing. This question is about whether you find it hard to make people understand you. And it's about physical difficulties, for example, having a stammer or being profoundly deaf. You might also have difficulties because of a physical injury or a condition like a brain injury, a stroke, or Parkinson's disease. If you have a difficulty of this kind because of mental health issues such as anxiety, you can explain that in a later question. You can communicate a simple message to other people, such as the presence of something dangerous. No, yes, it varies. These are sample situations. For this question, don't just think about telling someone about something dangerous. For example, could you order what you like in a cafe? This could be either by saying what would you like, or writing it down. I don't feel embarrassed if you have to tick no. For example, if you can't convey a simple message because you would need help from someone else, such as a sign language interpreter. You are having difficulty speaking, you have limited speech, or you can't speak at all. Your condition means that you have difficulties writing and typing, as well as speaking. You can't speak loudly enough or for long enough to get someone's attention. Speaking, writing, or typing causes you pain or leaves you out of breath. What to explain about speaking, writing, and typing? It is important to tell the Department of Work and Pension more by explaining your situation in the box. Give as much information as you can about your difficulties communicating with people. For example, explain if people don't understand you. Give examples if you can, how it makes you feel if when someone can't understand you. If you avoid communicating because it's hard, takes too long, or frustrates you, whether someone helps you to communicate and how they help you. Out of 10, you have difficulties, whether you have good days or bad days, and what the differences are. The Department of Work and Pension gives you points for question 6. The Department of Work and Pension will check when the which of these descriptors matches your answer. If you meet descriptor 6A, you will get limited capability for work related activity. And if you meet one of the other descriptors, the Department of Work and Pension will have your points from the whole form to decide if you can get limited capability for work per se. Descriptor 6A cannot convey a simple message such as the presence of a hazard. This is 15 points. 6B has significant difficulty conveying a simple message to strangers. You convey but significant difficult to convey a simple message to strangers. We also get 15 points. 6C has some difficulty conveying a simple message to strangers. You get 6 points. 6D, none of the above apply. You get 0 points. Number 7, communicating, hearing, and reading. This question is about whether you you have difficulties understanding what people say to you, and if you have problems, if you have problems actually difficulties understanding what people say to you, and if you have problem reading. Can you understand simple messages from other people by hearing or lip reading without the help of other person? No, yes, it varies. Sample answers, potential options. Don't feel embarrassed if you have to take no. For example, if you are deaf or have hearing loss, or you don't you don't lip read, and you can manage to lip read people you know but not strangers. These are some of the scenarios, and you need a sign language interpreter. You sometimes misunderstand things you are told if you use an aid such as a hearing aid. You should answer the questions as if you are using it. Can you understand simple messages from other people by reading large size print or using braille? No, yes, it varies. Again, don't feel embarrassed if you have to take no. For example, if you are virtually impaired and you don't use braille, what to explain about hearing and reading. It is important to tell the Department of Work and Pension more by explaining your situation in the box. If you use any aid to help you understand other people, or to have you read, then give the details in the box. For example of aid, you could use braille, large print, audio formats, special lights to help you read a hearing aid or an larynx. A text telephone or amplification equipment to help you hear, as well as writing about aids that help you. It is important to explain things like if it takes you a long time to read something or to understand someone, if you use a sign language interpreter, and what would happen if you didn't have one, if someone reads things for you or explains what others have said. Are not being able to read something or hear someone would cause you problems. How you feel when you can't understand what is said or written. How the Department of Work and Pension give points for question 7. the Department of Work and Pension will check which of these descriptors matches your answer. If you meet descriptor 7A, you will get limited coverage for work related activity. If you meet one of the other descriptors, the Department of Work and Pension will add up your points from the whole form to decide if you can get limited capability for work. Looking at descriptors and points, 7A cannot understand a simple message such as the location of a fire escape due to sensory impairment. You get 15 points. 17B as a significant difficulty understanding a simple message from a stranger due to sensory impairment. You get 15 points. 15 points. 7C as some difficulty understanding a simple message from a stranger due to sensory impairment. You get 6 points. D, 7D, none of the above. You get 0 point. Number 8, getting around safely. This question is about physical health conditions. You don't need to write about your mental health here. If you have a mental health condition that makes it hard for you to get around safely on your own, for example, anxiety or agoraphobia, write about it in question 15. If you have a physical condition that affects your ability to get around safely, you should include it. For example, low vision, migraines, if they affect your vision or give you dizziness or vertigo, hearing loss, if it makes it more difficult for you to get around safely, narcolepsy, a disorder that makes people fall asleep at inappropriate times, Meniere's disease, if it makes you dizzy or give you vertigo. If you normally use glasses or contact lenses, or a guide dog, a hearing aid, or other aid, answer the question based on how you get around when you are using them. Can you see the cross? Can you see to cross the road on your own? No, yes, it varies. Think about trying to cross a road you have never crossed before. For example, on the way to an appointment somewhere new, don't feel embarrassed if you have to take no. For example, if you need help from from another person, you could take. It varies. If it depends on the weather, or if it is daytime, or if it's after dark. Can you get around a place that you haven't been to before without help? No. Yes, it varies. Again, don't feel embarrassed if you have to take no, because you would need help from another person. For example, if you couldn't get around a new place because help after dark, without help after dark, you are blurred or double vision. You are hearing hearing difficulties. Mean you wouldn't be able to ask for help. What to explain about getting around safely. It's important to tell the Department of Work and Pension more by explaining your situation in the box, both for crossing the road and getting around new places. It is important to explain things like what would stop you from crossing the road on your own, whether you have fallen in the past, if you have got good or bad days. For example, if you have migraines, and what it is like for you to on different days, and whether you can use public transport to get around. For example, you can't see the number of the bus, so don't know if it is the right route. If you can get around a supermarket to find what you are looking for, if you can focus on things, when you need to, for example, road signs. How the Department of Work and Pension gives point for questions 8. The Department of Work and Pension will check which of these descriptors matches your answer. You can't get limited capability for work related activity from matching any of these descriptors. The Department of Work and Pension will add up your points from the whole form to decide if you can get limited capability for work-related activity. Limited capability for work-related activity from question 8. There are no limited capability for work-related activity descriptors for this question. You can still get limited capability for work-related activity if this question shows that doing work-related activity would be a risk to your health or to the health of someone else. You can check what counts as a risk to health, descriptors and points respectively. Question 8A. I'm able to navigate around familiar surroundings without being accompanied by another person due to sensory impairment. You get 15 points there. 8B, cannot safely complete a potentially hazardous task such as crossing the road without being accompanied by another person due to sensory impairment. You get 15 points. 8C, unable to navigate around unfamiliar surroundings without being accompanied by one person due to sensory impairment. You get 9. D, none of the above applies. You get 0. 9, controlling your bowels and bladder and using a collective device. This question is about whether you have a problem with your bladder or bowels while you are awake or not while you are asleep. This question is especially relevant for people with conditions like IBS or Crohn's disease. You might also have problems as a result of your medication or of a different condition or disability. For example, if you can't control your bladder when having an epileptic seizure. You do not do you have to wash or change your clothes because of difficulty controlling your bladder, bowels, or collecting device? No. Yes, weekly. Yes, monthly. Yes, less than monthly. Yes, but only if I cannot reach the toilet quickly. Try to be honest, even if you find it embarrassing. It's important for the Department of Work and Pension to know what happens so they can make the right decision. If you have to clean yourself and change your clothes due to incontinence, say how often this happens. If it hasn't happened, but you are worried that it could, or it hasn't happened because you stay near a toilet, you should tick the last box. If you can manage your condition with incontinence pads, for example, you should take no if there's a reason why you don't use them, or if you sometimes still have to change your clothes. Tick yes and explain in the box what to explain about your bowels and bladder. It's important to tell the Department of Work and Pension more by explaining your situation in the box. You should explain things like what happens if you can't reach a toilet quickly, how often you need to wash or change your clothes because of difficulty controlling your bladder or bowels, whether you carry spare clothes around in case of emergency, if you take medication to control your bladder or bowels, or whether it works, the problems you have, if you want to go out, for example, if you need to stay close to a toilet to avoid accidents, how often you have flare-ups. For example, if your Crohn's disease is usually well controlled with medication, but you get severe diarrhea once every 6 months. The Department of Work and Pension give points for question 9. You will get limited capability for work-related activity if this statement matches your answer at least once a week experiences. A, loss of control leading to extensive evacuation of the bowel and or avoiding the bladder, or B, substantial leakage of the contents of the collective device sufficient to require the individual to clean themselves and change clothing. If you meet one of the descriptors, the Department of Work and Pension will add up your points from the whole form to decide if you can get limited capability for work, limited capability for work. Descriptors and points for 15 points. Number 9A, at least once a month experiences. 9A1, loss of control leading to extensive evacuation of the bowel and or avoiding voiding of the bladder, or substantial. Number 2, substantial leakage of the contents of a collecting device sufficient to require cleaning and a change in clothing. B, you get 15 points there. For 6 points, B, the majority of time is at risk of loss of control leading to extensive evacuation of the bowel and or voiding of the bladder sufficient to require cleaning and a change in clothing if not able to reach a toilet quickly. You get 6 points. C, neither of the above apply, you get 0 point. I'm going to stop this video here. Let me try part number, just bear with me. So let us look at staying conscious when awake. This question is about whether your condition or disability affects your consciousness. For example, your consciousness might be affected by epilepsy, diabetes, narcolepsy, a condition that makes you fall asleep in inappropriate times, severe migraine while you are awake. Often, do you faint or have fits or blackouts daily, weekly, monthly, less than monthly? The Department of Work and Pension want to know how often you have these fits, seizures, or blackouts, or anything else that severely disrupts your awareness and concentration when you are awake. They are not interested in what happens when you are asleep, whether at night or during the day. You might not always completely lose consciousness when you have fits or seizures. It's still important to include them and say how they affect you, what to explain about your conscious, about staying conscious. And it is important to tell the Department of Work and Pension more by explaining your situation in the box. You should explain if you have any warning that you are about to have a fit or a seizure. If you have been taken to hospital, say how many times this has happened and how long it takes you to recover. If you are afraid to go out in case you have a fit or a seizure, if you have injured yourself or had an accident during a fit or a seizure, for example, if you have hit your head, if your medication gives you side effects, say what they are and what to do about them, what you do about them. And if you have lost your driving license or you have never had one because of your condition or disability, write down if after losing consciousness you need to take time to recover, such as going to bed, don't know how you feel. You may become aggressive or unpredictable, unaware of what's going on around you. Need someone to care for you. The Department of Work and Pension give points of questions 10. For question 10, Department of Work and Pension will check which of these descriptors matches your answer. You can't get a limited capability for work related activity from matching any of these descriptions. The Department of Work and Pension will add up your points from the whole form to decide if you can get limited capability for work. Limited capability for work related activity from question 10. There are no limited capability for work related activity descriptors for this question. You can still get limited capability for work related activity if this question shows that doing work related activity would be a risk to your health or someone else's health. You can check what counts as a risk to health. Descriptors 10 for 15 points. Number 10A, at least once a week, as an involuntary episode of loss or altered consciousness resulting in significantly disrupting awareness or concentration. You get 15 points. 10B, at least once a month, as an involuntary episode of loss or altered consciousness resulting in significantly disrupted awareness or concentration. You get 6 points. Number C, none of the above apply. You get 0 point. We are going to look at the other elements of the condition of the descriptors next time we meet. Thank you so much for your help today. We have had a very fantastic opportunity. We have a really good time